And you should be able to also hear Daniel James. Dan, you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, sweet. Good to see you, Daniel. And can you kick us off? We're going to be interviewing you tonight. Tell us a bit about yourself. What do you study? Where do you go to church? And how many coffees do you generally have in an average day?
Well, I'll leave that one for the end because that one's a bit more fun. I am currently a third-year jazz drumming student, so anyone who's in the jazz department, maybe do a shout-out in the comments or something like that, because I'm one of a very few number. I love coffee, as Peter has alluded to gently, and I also love disc golf, which makes me an absolute dweeb, but I love it. It's so good. Look it up if you don't know what it is. I go to a church on the north side called Hills Church, which we are part of the Wesleyan Methodist denomination. I've been there for a bit over 2 years now, and it's a fantastic place. And I've really enjoyed it. And coffee, the all-important question is it depends on what time. So I've written down my answer because I wanted to be real specific about this one.
Excellent.
During exams, as much as I can afford and beyond. And during normal times, probably 2 to 4 shots a day. So like sort of 2 coffees, 1 or 2 coffees, depending on how I'm feeling.
Yeah, 1 or 2 coffees, but they sound like a double shot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's not massively over the top. That's good. Yeah. So COVID, it's been really tough for everyone in different ways. What's been hard for you?
Oh, mate. I think the biggest thing let's be real, we're a lot of con students here, re-navigating and I guess concerned for what our careers look like, being in a somewhat already fickle and very difficult to navigate career pathway, and now all of a sudden all the was there is all but gone. So that's been stressful, and I think even in terms of just figuring out how it's going and how like where you want to go versus what is now available, and how is it going to work out how I thought it was going to work out, and I think just do I actually trust that God has my best interest at heart and that he's looking after me even when everything's nuts. So that's probably been the hardest thing out of all this is looking forwards and figuring out where the heck am I going to go.
That sounds intense. So when you're feeling all those things and it's hard, how do you go at trying to fix your eyes on Jesus through that?
I've got a few things. I think looking backwards for me, there's something you learn from the past, looking back to times that God has really looked after you and that he's shown with, like physical evidence that he does look after you and that his promises of provision and care for you are actually true. And so I think looking back and remembering and seeing that evidence actually helps me to move forwards. But the other ones, there's 2 other main ones which are a lot more practical, and that's staying in scripture, involving Jesus in my thoughts throughout the day, not just like a typical quiet time thing, involving him in my relationship, in my, when her and I are hanging out, staying connected at church with people as best as possible. Just doing the community thing is really important too. This is a perfect example of that as well, as much as it's not perfect in that sense of we're not together, but we're trying.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I got one more question for you tonight, because tonight we're thinking about living as citizens of Jesus' kingdom in a world that operates very differently to Jesus and the way he wants his kingdom to be. So how do you go with living for Jesus when you're at uni, when you're at work, just as you operate in this world that's in defiance to Jesus' kingdom? What do you find hard about living for Jesus?
It's funny, I was actually thinking about that question going. In first year, I did an assignment. Everyone does it in the MLAM assignment where you have to contact the professionals. And I contacted one of my heroes, John Foreman from the band Switchfoot, those of you who know. Anyway, I asked him some extra questions, and I pretty much asked him exactly what you said to me, Peter. And his response was really profound. He said, and it was a short answer and it's only part of my answer, but his answer was that you can actually find the love of Jesus anywhere if you're willing to look hard enough for it. And so that was really profound for me, and that helps me, I think, to try and see where Jesus is working, even in a world that's against him. But I think as well as that, to go more practical, it's already hard to do. And I think my biggest struggle is I'm good at being a chameleon. I'm good at fitting into the room and reading the room, and I can make people feel really comfortable. And I'm always willing to talk about Jesus. Like if someone asks me, I'm totally down for it. But I think I'm not great at actually actively pursuing that and starting that, like, I guess, doing the initiation part of the conversation. And like, I'm sure that there's a bunch of people that are like that too. And I was thinking about that going, that's actually not just in my relationship with Jesus. That's a lot of things that I struggle to start conversations with. But at the same time, how can I maybe be doing better at initiating conversation about anything? And then hopefully the Jesus stuff will be part of that as well, in being more active about it anyway. But COVID makes it harder than it already was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, mate, thanks for sharing. If you've got any more questions to ask Dan, throw them his way. I'm sure he'd love to chat to you about that. But for now, thanks, Dan.